So again, rapid fire. Now we have Dr. Manley from Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Come on up.
Hi, I'm not actually Dr. Manley, but thank you so much for having me. To start, I'd just like to acknowledge and thank all of our participants who, without whom this research would not be possible. I don't have any disclosures to make, but these are the disclosures for Matt Akiyama, the PI. So just some background to start with. Estimates show that about 1/3 of women who inject drugs around the world engage in transactional sex, or exchanging sex for money, drugs, or other goods and services. The less common, men who inject drugs may also engage in transactional sex, and gender differences between those who inject drugs and engage in transactional sex are not well understood, particularly in resource-limited settings. As part of the TLC IDU study, which you can read more about at the QR code here, we recruited about 3,100 people who inject drugs from needle and syringe programs in Kenya using respondent-driven sampling. The majority of our sample was men. In terms of disease status, women were more likely than men to be HIV positive, hepatitis C antibody positive, and HIV hepatitis C co-infected. Zooming back out to look at the whole sample, just under 5% of our sample reported ever engaging in transactional sex. And so this analysis examines gender differences in transactional sex-related behaviors. So just looking overall, women were more likely than men to report ever having transactional sex. Looking at who sex was exchanged with, nearly all women exchanged sex only with men, and most men exchanged sex with women only as well. Of those reporting transactional sex, women and men were similarly likely to have exchanged sex for money, alcohol, and transportation. However, women were significantly more likely than men to have exchanged sex for drugs, food, shelter, and clothing. So it looks like women exchange sex for a greater variety of things, and especially highlighting food and shelter to meet basic needs. Women reporting transactional sex also reported greater history of experiencing sexual assault. However, this difference appears to be driven not only by gender alone, as participants reporting transactional sex were significantly more likely than their counterparts with no transactional sex history to have ever been sexually assaulted. So a few key takeaways from these findings. First, differences in what sex is exchanged for may point to important gender differences in financial and economic status between men and women who inject drugs. Additionally, important to highlight is that most men who reported ever having transactional sex exchange sex with women. However, most literature on men engaged in transactional sex focuses on men having sex with men. So this is an important gap to highlight, as men who inject drugs and engage in transactional sex with women may be a key and understudied bridge population, particularly for bloodborne infection prevention. Lastly, those engaged in transactional sex, particularly women, are at greater risk of experiencing sexual assault, which places them at greater risk not only for bloodborne infection, but for other poor mental and physical health outcomes as well. Thank you.